I still remember the exact moment I realized I was stuck in the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. It wasn't a big disaster. No huge debt. No sudden job loss. It was something small, but it hit me hard. One afternoon, I walked into a coffee shop, craving a simple $3 cup of coffee. I swiped my card and it got declined. Confused, I checked my banking app. My balance? $4.87. It wasn't the first time I had run out of money before payday, but this time felt different. I had a decent job. I worked hard. So why was I always broke? I sat there, staring at my empty cup, and realized my problem wasn't just money. It was my entire system. I wasn't bad with money. I just never had a strategy that worked for me. That day, I made a decision. I was done living like this. But instead of following the same old budgeting advice, I tried something different. I rewired how I thought about money, spending, and income. What happened next changed everything. This is how I finally broke free from the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle, and how you can too. Number 1. The problem wasn't just money. It was my mental model. For the longest time, I thought my problem was simple. I didn't make enough money. If I could just get a raise, everything would be fine. But every time my paycheck increased, my expenses somehow grew with it. No matter how much I earned, I still ended up with nothing left before the next payday. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about income. It was about how I thought about money. I was stuck in what I now call the survival finance loop. I would get paid, feel relief, spend on necessities, maybe treat myself a little, and then suddenly my balance would be close to zero. Then I'd wait anxiously for the next paycheck, repeating the cycle over and over again. It wasn't just about spending too much. It was about depending on that next paycheck like a lifeline. I realized that my brain had been trained to think short-term. I wasn't planning ahead because I never had the space to do so. I was focused only on getting through the month. The stress of living paycheck to paycheck made me crave instant rewards, ordering takeout when I felt tired, buying small things to feel in control. Every purchase gave me a quick boost of happiness, but it also kept me trapped in the cycle. I started researching how money habits are built and why people struggle to break free from financial stress. That's when I learned about dopamine, the brain chemical that makes us seek pleasure. The more I relied on small, instant rewards, the harder it became to think about long-term security. If I wanted real change, I didn't just need a new budget. I needed to rewire how my brain responded to money. That was the first real step. Number 2. The first radical change. The 72-hour spending rule. At first, I thought the only way to save money was to stop spending. That's what everyone says: cut back, sacrifice, live on less. But every time I tried to follow strict budgets, I felt miserable. I would resist spending for a while. It felt like a diet that always ended in binge eating. Then I tried something different. Instead of forcing myself to stop spending, I simply changed how I spent. I created a rule. Before buying anything non-essential, I had to wait 72 hours. If I still wanted it after 3 days, I could buy it. But most of the time, I didn't. At first, it felt strange. I was so used to buying things on impulse: clothes, gadgets, random Amazon finds. But something interesting happened. When I forced myself to wait, I realized that most of my purchases were emotional, not necessary. The excitement of buying something new faded quickly, and I often forgot about it entirely. After a month, my spending dropped without feeling like I was restricting myself. It wasn't that I couldn't buy things, I just became more intentional. The biggest surprise? I didn't miss most of the things I thought I wanted. This simple rule gave me control over my money in a way that no budget ever had. It taught me that financial freedom isn't just about earning more, it's about making better decisions with what you already have. And sometimes, the best decision is simply waiting. Number 3. The income upgrade most people ignore: recession-proof skills. For years, I thought the only way to make more money was to get a better job or work extra hours. I tried side hustles, but they took up too much time and energy. No matter how hard I worked, I always felt like I was just trading my time for money, and there was never enough of it. Then I discovered something that changed everything: recession-proof skills. These are skills that pay well in any economy, are always in demand, and give you control over your income instead of depending on one job or company. I realized that most people, including myself, were focusing on making money the hard way. We were chasing temporary fixes like overtime pay or second jobs instead of building skills that could increase our earning potential permanently. I started by learning about automation tools and no-code platforms. Companies were looking for ways to do more with less, and knowing how to automate simple tasks made me valuable. Instead of just working harder, I found ways to work smarter. I also learned high-demand skills like UX writing and negotiation, things that businesses always need, even in a bad economy. At first, I practiced these skills on small freelance projects. The money wasn't huge, but it was steady. More importantly, I was no longer relying only on my paycheck. As I improved, I was able to charge more and choose better opportunities. One of the most surprising things was how much easier it was to earn money once I focused on the right skills. Instead of trying to survive on my paycheck, I built new income streams that weren't tied to my 9-to-5 job. My financial stress started to disappear because I no longer felt trapped by my employer. Learning recession-proof skills didn't just increase my income. It gave me confidence, freedom, and a way out of the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. It made me realize that the real key to financial security isn't working harder, it's working smarter in a way that keeps paying off, no matter what happens in the economy. Number 4, the money distribution system that made me feel rich. For a long time, I thought budgeting meant cutting back on everything. I would make strict plans, trying to spend as little as possible, but I always failed. No matter how hard I tried, something unexpected would come up. A friend's birthday, a car repair, or just the urge to have fun. Every month, I felt like I was losing control. Then I changed my approach. Instead of thinking about money in terms of limits, I started thinking about where my money should go before I even touched it. I created a simple system where every paycheck was already assigned to different categories before I spent a single dollar. I made sure 60% of my income went to essential expenses like rent, bills, and food. Then I set aside 10% for guilt-free spending, things that made life fun like going out or buying something I wanted. Another 10% went to my future self for investments and savings. I created an anti-fragile fund where I saved 10% for opportunities, not just emergencies. And the last 10%, I kept it for random acts of wealth, like surprising someone with a gift or donating to a cause I cared about. Something incredible happened. I no longer felt deprived because I had money set aside for fun. I felt more responsible because I knew my future self was taken care of. And the most surprising part, I actually felt rich because I had money ready for generosity, even in small ways. This system made me stop fearing money and start owning it. Instead of struggling with every paycheck, I finally felt in control. It wasn't about how much I made, it was about how I used it, and that changed everything. Number 5, the micro savings trick that built my safety net in 6 months. Every time I read about saving money, the advice was the same: save 3 to 6 months of expenses. That always felt impossible. I was barely getting through the month, so how could I save thousands of dollars? I tried setting aside big chunks of money, but it never worked. I would always end up using it for something urgent. Then I tried a different approach. Instead of aiming for a big savings goal right away, I started small, so small that I barely noticed it. I used what I called the 1% rule. Every time I got paid, I saved just 1% of my income. If I made $2,000 a month, I put away $20. It felt like nothing, but that was the point. The next month, I increased it to 2%, then 3%, and so on. Because the change was gradual, I never felt like I was losing money. After a few months, I was saving 10% of my income without even thinking about it. By the end of 6 months, I had built a small but powerful safety net. It wasn't a huge amount, but it was the first time in my life I had savings that I didn't touch. More importantly, I proved to myself that I could save. This trick worked because it wasn't painful. I didn't have to change my whole lifestyle overnight. I just made tiny adjustments, and over time, those small savings turned into something big. Number 6, the invisible money hack: how I made my bills disappear. Paying bills always felt stressful. Every month, I watched my paycheck disappear as rent, electricity, internet, and other expenses drained my account. It felt like I was working just to pay bills, with nothing left over for myself. I tried budgeting, but it didn't change the fact that bills were always hanging over me. Then I made a simple change. I set up 2 separate bank accounts just for bills. One account was for fixed expenses like rent, insurance, and subscriptions. The other was for variable expenses like groceries and utilities. Every time I got paid, I automatically transferred the exact amount needed into these accounts. Since the money was already set aside, I never had to think about bills again. To take it a step further, I overfunded my bill accounts by 10% each month. That way, I built a small cushion over time. After a few months, I had extra money sitting in these accounts, which meant that if an unexpected expense came up, I didn't have to panic. This trick made my bills feel invisible. I no longer stressed about due dates because the money was always there. It felt like my paycheck was actually mine instead of disappearing the moment I got it. Number 7. The secret to staying out of the paycheck trap forever. Even after I started saving and earning more, I still had one fear. What if I slipped back into the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle? I had seen it happen to others. They would improve their finances for a while, then something unexpected would happen, and they would be right back where they started. I didn't want that to be me. That's when I learned about the freedom metric. Instead of focusing only on saving money, I started tracking how much of my income came from sources that didn't depend on my job. I calculated how much money I needed every month to survive and compared it to how much I was making from investments, freelancing, and side income. My goal was to get that number above 100%, meaning my passive and extra income could cover my expenses without relying on my paycheck. Now, if you want to learn how to achieve financial success, then watch this video next. If you made it to this point in the video, please like and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.